And to more news coming in from the United States, U.S. national security agencies and the Justice Department are scrambling to determine the source, scale, and the sensitivity of what appears to be the most serious leak of U.S. intelligence in years. The documents appear to contain information on everything from the war in Ukraine to North Korea's weapons program and France's relations with African nations. U.S. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby stated that there is no excuse for such documents to be in the public domain. However, the documents indicate that the United States has been spying on various countries, including the ones it calls allies.
What do we know about the latest leak of US secrets? US national security agencies and the Justice Department are scrambling to determine the source, scale and sensitivity of what appears to be the most serious spillage of US intelligence in years. The documents appear to contain information on everything from the war in Ukraine to North Korea's weapons program and France's relations with Africa.
Safe to say this is one of the most damaging intelligence leaks this century so far.
Let's take a closer look at some of the key revelations. The most sensitive content is what appears to be operational information about the war in Ukraine, including details about the country's air defense vulnerabilities. There are also predictions about how China would respond to Ukrainian strikes inside Russia, as well as details of a purported internal discussion among South Korean officials about pressure from the US on Seoul to help supply weapons to Ukraine. Aside from the Ukraine war, there's information about Iran's nuclear capabilities and North Korea's missile tests. France's security goals in West and Central Africa also come under scrutiny, with an assessment that they will not be met.
About 20 pages are serial intelligence reports produced by different agencies. A serial report is a one-paragraph, concise reporting on a specific issue in a specific country. The other 20-some pages are maps and war updates from Ukraine.
Are the documents real, and how were they leaked? Pictures of creased documents were posted on platforms across the internet, including Discord, 4chan, Telegram, and Twitter. US officials believe most of the material is genuine. Some documents, however, appear to have been altered to show inflated US estimates for Ukrainian battlefield casualties, as well as understated numbers for Russian forces.
It appears that whoever had access to the files had them in print form, because otherwise why would you take pictures of them and then distribute the pictures? And so that means we could simply be looking at, we have to include very mundane explanations, like somebody could have literally lost a bag of classified documents, or somebody could have had access to that suitcase in some car, whatever it was. So there could be some very unusual explanations for what is, after all, a very unusual, leak or spillage of information here.
The open source investigation site, Bellingcat, said it had found evidence that the documents, or at least some of them, had appeared on social media as far back as March or even January.
U.S. officials on Monday were scrambling to identify the source of what could be the most damaging leak of highly classified intelligence since the WikiLeaks publication of thousands of government documents a decade ago. At a press briefing at the White House, U.S. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said they were working on getting to the bottom of it.
We're taking this very, very seriously. There is no excuse for these kinds of documents to be in the public domain. They don't deserve to be in the public domain. They deserve to be protected. If there's actions that need to be taken as we learn more about the extent of what happened here, we'll obviously take those.
3 U.S. officials told Reuters that national security agencies were reviewing how they share their most sensitive secrets inside the U.S. government after the recent release of dozens of confidential documents that appeared online, and are dealing with the diplomatic fallout. Some of the most sensitive information is purportedly related to Ukraine's military capabilities and shortcomings. Information about multiple U.S. allies were also leaked. One of the documents gave details of internal discussions among senior South Korean officials about U.S. pressure on Seoul to supply weapons to Ukraine and its policy of not doing so. On Monday, South Korean lawmakers said they, quote, strongly regret that the U.S. had been illegally spying on allies. Reuters has reviewed more than 50 of the documents labeled secret and top secret that first appeared on social media sites in March. Reuters has not independently verified the authenticity of the documents.
I won't speak to the validity of all the documents, the ones that that don't immediately appear to be doctored. We're still working through the validity of all the documents that we know are out there.
The Department of Justice, meanwhile, has opened a criminal investigation into the disclosure of the documents. Although the release appears to be the most serious public leak of classified information in years, officials say it so far does not reach the scale and scope of the 700,000 documents, videos, and diplomatic cables that appeared on the WikiLeaks website in 2013.
So clearly the United States has been caught off guard by this intelligence leak. Listen in to the full response of John Kirby, the national security spokesperson.
The president has been briefed. He was first briefed late last week when we all got word that there were some documents out there, and he has stayed briefed and in contact with national security officials throughout the weekend. So he has been briefed. And as for the source, as you know, the Department of Defense has referred this to the Department of Justice for a criminal investigation, and I certainly would refer you to them, but I'm not aware that they've come to any conclusions at this point about where they're coming from. I think the Department of Defense has already started to take a look at distribution, for instance, at the Pentagon. I'll let them speak to that. I don't know the answer to your question on protocols for who is or who is not granted security clearances. There is already in place and remains in place a very diligent, deliberate effort to manage security clearances, and sometimes we get knocked because it takes a little too long for people's clearances to get approved because the process is so careful and deliberate. I think, to your question, I think we just need to be careful right now speculating or guessing what might be behind or who might be behind what looks like a potential leak here of classified information. So we need to let the process sort of bear itself out.
Or is the White House offering any kind of reassurance to Ukrainian officials about the safety of some of their most sensitive information?
U.S. officials have been in touch with relevant allies and partners over the last couple of days at very high levels, and I'll leave it at that. So we're taking this very, very seriously. There is no excuse for these kinds of documents to be in the public domain. They don't deserve to be in the public domain. They deserve to be protected. So we're going to get to the bottom of this, and then if there's actions that need to be taken as we learn more about the extent of what happened here, we'll obviously take those. We know that some of them have been doctored. I won't speak to the validity of all the documents, the ones that that don't immediately appear to be doctored. We're still working through the validity of all the documents that we know are out there. The Department of Defense has stood up an interagency effort to try to look at the national security implications, which includes taking a look at these documents to determine whether they're actually valid or not. And I'm just not in a position to speak to that work, which is ongoing. They certainly appear to be directly related to national security concerns and intelligence. That's pretty obvious. We don't know who's responsible for this, and we don't know if they have more that they intend to post. So we're watching this and monitoring it as best we can. But the truth and the honest answer to your question is we don't know. And is that a matter of concern to us? You're darn right it is.
And Australia has also taken cognizance of this intelligence leak. Angus Campbell, the chief of Australia's Defence Forces, has said that the issue of maintaining information security is critical to the development of national capabilities. Listen in.
The issue of maintaining the security of information is critical to the development of national capability and to the trust and confidence across allies and partners. And I appreciate that this, by reports, is a serious leak. It is being investigated seriously by US authorities, and they are engaging with partners in order to better understand the potential consequences of that information being released into the public. Anything that undermines the security, the stability and the prosperity of the Indo-Pacific region in which we live is of interest to Australia. The question then might arise, what particular circumstance or scenario enlivens what form of interest and in what form of response? I encourage all parties to areas of international tension to find other ways to resolve that tension